So this is a problem from the 2004 Form B macroeconomics exam. So obviously it's an FRQ. It's a comparative advantage problem. And remember, in the first part of the test, you get that 10 minutes of reading. And certainly what I might want to do, should I get to question 3 in terms of being able to plan my answer, is make sure I know what the question is about, what it's asking for. And as scanning this, I know that I'm going to be calculating a lot of opportunity cost and figuring out who has comparative advantage and this, that, and the other thing. So I'm just going to take this this information and put it in the chart that we were using in class. And I'm actually, even though the problem is not going to ask for terms of trade, I'm going to work that so that you guys see that. All right. And I also want to notice that it's an output problem. So remember our table, and I'm going to try to be as neat as possible. As I sit here watching the Eagles lose to the Colts. All right. So I'm going to need 3 columns here. All right. So here's Newland. And here's Beeland. All right. So Newland can produce with the same amount of resources, right? Using equal resources, because this is an output problem. They can produce 10 units of cloth, right? Or 2 units of food. So I want to figure out the opportunity cost for each unit of cloth. Let's start that way. So 1 unit of cloth is going to equal 1/5 a unit of food. And I did that because if I'm going to produce cloth, let's say that's the thing I'm producing, I'm going to set it up this way. What I don't produce is on top, and what I'm figuring the opportunity cost for is on the bottom. So what I'm not producing divided by what I am going to produce gives me 1/5. Then 1 food, of course, and we can just reduce this down right here, is going to equal 5 units of cloth. Okay, so we've got the opportunity cost for Newland of cloth production and food production. For Beeland can produce 10 units of cloth or 1 unit of food. Okay, so this is pretty easy, right? So 1 unit of cloth then is going to equal 1/10 a unit of food. And it's really exactly what I talked about over here. All right, if I'm not producing food, I'm going to put that on top. And what I'm going to produce on bottom, what I'm figuring the opportunity cost for, is on the bottom. So that also means, and this is already up here, 1 food equals 10 units of cloth. So now let's figure out comparative advantage, right? Oops. Okay, here we go. So I've got the opportunity cost of a unit of cloth in Newland is 1/5 a unit of food. The opportunity cost of producing a unit of food in Beeland, all right, is 10 units of cloth. Okay. And of course, as I'm writing out the problem, I'm going to go 3A and I'm going to put 1/5 unit of food and 10 units of cloth. I'll write that out, but we're just, this is like in our reading period that we might be able to do this. Now, which nation has the advantage in cloth production? Okay, comparing the 2 nations, it looks like 1/10, right, is smaller than 1/5. So Beeland is giving up less to produce cloth. So they have the lower opportunity cost. So that's going to be, and I'll just put B here. Okay. And which nation has the comparative advantage in food production? Of course, 5 units of cloth is a lower opportunity cost than 10 units of cloth, right? Newland is giving up less to produce food than Beeland. So I've already gotten myself 4 points. Then it says, now assume that the productivity of Beeland's workers triples for each good. Okay, which country has the comparative advantage in food production? Well, that doesn't change anything, right? Because this would be 30 units of cloth equaling 3 units of food if we tripled production. And that's just going to reduce down. The opportunity cost does not change for Beeland. All right. One food is still going to equal 10 units of cloth. So who has the comparative advantage in food production? It's still Newland. Okay, opportunity cost. The opportunity cost of food production for Beeland remains unchanged. And how did I determine my answer? Here I'm going to explain that 1 unit of food still costs Beeland 10 units of cloth, and Newland has a lower opportunity cost than Beeland. So hopefully you don't get tripped up when you see a problem like that. It really is just trying to, I guess, deepen your thinking. Now, let's say we needed to figure out terms of trade. Okay, I know the problem doesn't ask for it, but let's imagine that it did. Okay, so I know that Beeland, right, is going to specialize in cloth production, and they will trade with Newland if 1 unit of cloth is worth more than 1/10 a unit of food. Okay, so anything greater than 1/10 a unit of food would make Beeland better off than they would be if they produced everything themselves. For Newland, of course, they're going to produce food. They're going to specialize in food production, and they will trade with Beeland as long as they can get, right, more than, as long as 1 unit of food has a greater value than 5 units of cloth. So let's try this. In terms of acceptable terms of trade, let's go to the next whole number here. Okay, let's go to 6 units of cloth for 1 unit of food. We know that Newland would be okay with that. That would be good for them. Let's imagine then, let's try to imagine how Beeland's going to feel. Not imagine, let's figure it out. 1 unit of cloth then is going to could be traded then for 1/6 units of food. Well, 1/6 is larger than 1/10. So actually, this would be acceptable terms of trade. I know the problem doesn't ask for it, but it's something that it seems we need some practice on. Right? And that's where we'll close.